Can you live like a king in Brazil for $2,000 a month? Yes, definitely in some areas, but not all. So in this video, I'm going to show you in which areas of Brazil you can live a very comfortable lifestyle in a spacious apartment, going out to eat as much as you want, good health insurance, and so on, and do all of this with just $2,000 a month. So let's start off by looking at the biggest city in Brazil, Sao Paulo. It has a population of over 12 million, and it probably doesn't come as a surprise to you that Sao Paulo is one of the most expensive cities when it comes to rent. And this report here is very useful. It's produced by FIPI-ZAP, and they release it every month. And this shows you the price of rent in all of the big cities in Brazil. And you can see that Sao Paulo is at the top there at 61 reais per square meter. So let's have a look at a couple of apartments. So you've got this apartment here. This is a 3-bedroom apartment, 106 square meters, which is 1,100 square feet. And this apartment is an old building. You can see it's been refurbished. And it's in the neighborhood Jardim Sao Paulo, which is an okay area. And the monthly rent for this apartment is 5,500 reais per month, which is $1,030. So you get a spacious apartment, but it's in an old building. It's in an okay area. And the building doesn't have any facilities like a swimming pool or a gym or anything. But if you want to live in one of the top neighborhoods in Sao Paulo, for example, Itaim, so here the apartments are very expensive. So you can get this studio apartment here, which is just 23 square meters, which is 250 square feet. Well, all you get is this tiny kitchen when you walk through the door, then a bedroom, and then a bathroom, and that's it. I mean, I think it looks more like a hotel room rather than an apartment. And the price is 6,400 reais per month, which is $1,200 per month. Now these two apartments are kind of at extremes. You've got a very large apartment in an okay area, and then a tiny apartment in one of the most exclusive and expensive areas in Sao Paulo. Obviously there are apartments in between. So you can see here, you can get medium-sized apartments in a decent area. So this is Vila Mariana, which is a nice area. And you can get apartments there for around 4,000 reais per month, which is $750 per month. However, you're also going to have condo fees and property taxes, which you can see written below the prices here, so you have to pay those per month as well. So yeah, if you want to live like a king in a very spacious apartment in Sao Paulo, you're going to spend a lot of money. And then other expenses like eating out and going to bars, that's pretty high here in Sao Paulo. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge to have the lifestyle that we're after in Sao Paulo on $2,000 a month. But don't get me wrong, you can definitely live on $2,000 a month in Sao Paulo. Many people do, and many people live on a lot less. So now let's have a look at some other cities, and let's go further south to a city called Curitiba, which is in the state of Paraná. And it's much smaller than Sao Paulo. It's got about 1.8 million inhabitants. And here rents are definitely lower. So if you look at that rental cost report again, you can see that Curitiba is a lot lower down than Sao Paulo in terms of the cost of rent. So Curitiba is definitely cheaper. So let's have a look at a couple of apartments and see what you can get for your money. So you can rent this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in a very nice area of Curitiba for 4,700 reais per month, which is $880 per month. The size of this apartment is 68 square meters, which is 730 square feet. So you can see it's a nice new modern apartment. Also got some facilities as well in terms of a gym and outdoor space. So you're definitely getting more for your money here. If you go for smaller apartments, you can rent them for between 2,000 and 3,000 reais per month, which is between $400 and $600 per month. So in Curitiba, the rent is a lot more reasonable. It's also a relatively safe city as well, which is very important. But still, if you want to live in a spacious apartment in Curitiba in a very nice area, you're still going to be spending 45,000 reais, like the first apartment I showed you. But paying this level of rent is on the high side and does make it a bit challenging to have the lifestyle that we're after. So one option is to look at some of the cities in the northeast of Brazil. So here it can be even cheaper than Curitiba. So let's have a look at a city there called Joao Pessoa, which is probably my favorite city in the northeast of Brazil. So Joao Pessoa is in the state of Paraíba. It's got a population of about 1 million people, and it's at the coast, and it's got lots of really nice beaches. And it's got a warm climate the whole year round, compared to Curitiba, which we looked at earlier, which has a relatively cold winter. Now, if you look at the rental cost report, it shows that actually Joao Pessoa has a very similar rental cost to Curitiba. And yeah, rental costs are definitely increasing pretty quickly in Joao Pessoa because lots of people are moving there. But my impression was still that rents there were lower than Curitiba and many other cities. So let's have a look at what kind of apartments you can get for your money. So you've got this modern 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment here, and the monthly rent is 4,000 reais per month, which is $750 per month. and it's in the neighborhood Praia Manaira, which is a nice, calm neighborhood, and it's pretty close to the beach as well, which is another big positive. And then you can get other apartments which are either smaller or a bit further away from the beach, and the rental prices are between 3,000 and 4,000 reais. So that's $650 to $750 per month. So now we're starting to find lower rents, which allows us to have enough money to be able to spend on other things and have a very good lifestyle. Another good thing about living in the Northeast is that these other expenses, so going out to bars and restaurants and so on, are relatively low compared to further south in Sao Paulo and Curitiba. And a bit later on in the video, I'm going to show you how much it costs for these other things, so going out, health insurance, groceries, and so on. And if you were to look at other cities in the Northeast, so if you look at that report again, so you've got cities like Natal, where the cost of rent is 39 reais per square meter, and then even cheaper than that, you've got Fortaleza at 35 reais per square meter. Now, the only thing I would say about living in the Northeast is that, in general, the crime rates here are higher than in the south of Brazil. So we just look at homicide rates, for example, and compare Paraíba, which is the state for Joao Pessoa, with Paraná, which is where Curitiba is, and Sao Paulo. You can see that Paraíba has a rate of 23 per 100,000 people, compared to Paraná, which has 15, and Sao Paulo, which has 5 per 100,000. Now, there are definitely nice, safe neighborhoods within the cities, but that's definitely something that you need to consider. So another option for you, if you want to pay a similar rent to Joao Pessoa, but you want to live further south, where crime rates are a bit lower, is that you go for a smaller city in the south. So I've chosen the city of Blumenau, which is in the state of Santa Catarina. So it's got a population of about 400,000, so definitely a lot smaller than the previous cities we've looked at. So here the crime rate is a lot lower. So you can see that the state of Santa Catarina has a rate of 6 homicides per 100,000, so close to what Sao Paulo has. So it's one of the safest states in Brazil. And here you can get similar rents to Joao Pessoa or even a bit lower. So let's have a look at a couple of apartments. So you've got this apartment here, which is 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The total size is 70 square meters, which is 750 square feet. And the price of this apartment is 3,500 reais per month, which is $650. So you can see you get a spacious modern apartment for $650 per month. So that's pretty good value for money. And here's another apartment, a similar size. This one has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And this is also for 3,500 reais, so $650 per month. But it doesn't have to be Blumenau in Santa Catarina. There are lots of other nice smaller cities in the south. You've got Londrina and Maringa in Paraná. Again, you can rent apartments for a similar amount. And also in the state of Sao Paulo, so away from the city, there you've got some nice smaller cities. So I like Ribeirão Preto and Franca. They're 2 very nice cities in Sao Paulo. So there are many smaller nice cities in the southeast and the south of Brazil, which are relatively safe as well. Okay, so now that we've found some cities where the rent is pretty reasonable, so now let's have a look at the other expenses, so utilities, eating out, grocery, and so on. See how much you would spend on these and if that comes within the $2,000 budget. So let's start with utilities, condo costs, insurance, property tax, and so on. So I mean, for all of these, 1,000 reais per month will cover everything, which is $200 per month. So in terms of condo fees and property tax, when you look at the real estate website, usually they state how much those are. So if you look here as apartments in Blumenau, for example, so you can see that the condo fees and the property tax are about 400 reais per month. Obviously, it depends on if the building has lots of facilities, swimming pool and gym and all of that. But the average is around 400 reais per month. And then another 600 reais for water, electricity, internet, gas, insurance. We'll definitely cover all of it. And in terms of eating out, so eating out in Brazil is significantly cheaper than the States and Europe. So when I go out with my family, so my wife and daughter, to a nice restaurant, we have lunch or dinner, we spend usually 100 to 150 reais for the 3 of us. So that's between $20 and $30. And that's for 3 people, so I'm saying, $10 per person. And I'm not talking about fast food here. I'm talking about sitting down in a nice restaurant and having a healthy meal. And then if we want to go to a really posh restaurant, then we spend about 300 reais for the 3 of us. So that's $60 for 3 people. And for that you have, starter, main course, and dessert, and so on. So if you allocate 3,000 reais per month, that's definitely enough for you to be able to go out as much as you want to restaurants and to bars and not have to worry at all about how much you're spending. And in terms of groceries, so I mean, obviously this depends on how much you eat out and you eat in and so on. And if they go to the more upmarket supermarkets, so Pão de Açúcar, Angeloni, Zafari, and for between 1,000 and 2,000 reais, and for that, one person can go to the supermarket and buy whatever they want and not be worried about how much they're spending and prices. And obviously, if you want to live like a king, you don't want to be cleaning the apartment and so on, so you'd have to have a cleaner. 400 to 500 reais per month is enough to pay for a cleaner to come once a week, and that's $80 to $90 a month. So obviously it's more expensive in the big cities, but in the smaller cities that we're focusing on, that's a reasonable amount to pay for a cleaner. And then another relatively big cost is health insurance, which I would definitely recommend that you have if you're planning to move to Brazil, because even though there is a public health service, I would still say it's good to have a health insurance, because if you need to do something a bit urgent or something a bit bigger like surgeries, then in general it's good to do it privately. And a good health insurance will be around 500 to 600 reais per month. So that's about $100. And I'm referring to someone who's in their 30s. Obviously, if you're younger, it's going to be a bit cheaper, and if you're older, it's going to be more expensive. But for someone in the 30s, it's going to be about $100 per month. And you've got other expenses like transportation, and Uber's a lot cheaper here in Brazil than in the States and Europe, that's for sure. And other miscellaneous costs. And if you add all of those up, you can see that you come to $2,000 a month. So you can definitely live a very comfortable lifestyle in these smaller cities or in one of the biggest cities in the north of Brazil. Obviously here I'm talking about living quite a luxurious lifestyle. Obviously you could live on a lot less. You could live on $1,000 per month in Brazil. Obviously, you just have to control your budget more. And the other thing is you have other costs as well, which I haven't included here. So, I mean, I go back and visit my family in Europe. I haven't included those costs in here. When you're renting an apartment, you have to put down a deposit and some other things. So when you move to Brazil, you should definitely have an amount of money in reserve, so you can use that for these other expenditures and any unexpected one-off costs. So I hope you found this video useful. Please subscribe, leave a like. If you've got any questions or anything, leave them in the commentary below. So thanks for watching. Until next time.